Nikki Haley has been mentioned as a candidate for president for some time. So, of course, I thought it'd be cool to put her up against Joe Biden in the 2024 presidential election scenario. Just to get started, Nikki Haley was once what was considered essentially a more moderate Trump figure. She would agree with Donald Trump on many of his policies. She was actually his UN ambassador for most of his administration. But at certain points, Nikki Haley actually disagreed with Donald Trump, especially on his rhetoric. But unfortunately, for her, this balancing act failed after the January 6th insurrection when she condemned Donald Trump and then lost many of his supporters' favorability after this, and she was seen as disloyal to him and now has lost much of her popular support. So even if Nikki Haley was the nominee in 2024, she'd likely lose a lot of the votes that Donald Trump got. But anyway, right into the prediction. Nikki Haley's home state of South Carolina would likely be safe red, and this is because it is her home state. She's pretty popular there, and even though it was likely for Donald Trump in 2020, she'll probably improve with the suburbs and make it about 12 to 13%. For Joe Biden, his home state of Delaware will likely be safe as well. And now going to Nikki Haley's safe states, most of the Midwest, and of course, Nebraska, except for Nebraska second, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Of course, the South would also be safe, with West Virginia, Indiana, and actually I think Alaska would be safe, since the suburbs that went for Joe Biden in 2020 would actually go to Nikki Haley, and so actually make it safe. But with a trade-off, I think that she'd actually lose support in certain states that you'll see later. For Joe Biden, of course, both coasts, the western coast and the eastern coast, along with Maryland, New York, Illinois, Colorado, Maine's 1st District, and Hawaii. And that's it for the safe states. For the likely states, I believe that Missouri will be likely, Iowa will be likely, and actually that will be it for Nikki Haley's likely states. The reason why these two states are likely, despite being pretty solid Trump states in 2020, is because Nikki Haley has less rural and blue-collar support, so voters in Missouri and Iowa would abandon her by decently large margins. Missouri was actually a little over the safe margin in 2020, so I think it could actually shift back a little bit to the Democrats. And Iowa, I think, would actually be about 6% instead of 8% for the Republican Party. And now we go into some of the likely states for Joe Biden: Virginia, New Mexico, and Maine at large. And actually, I believe Minnesota would be likely as well. All of these calls would be for the following reasons. Virginia is more of an establishmentarian state that would favor Nikki Haley. New Mexico, Nikki Haley could definitely improve with minorities. Minnesota would actually be a little less than the margin that Joe Biden won by in 2020, probably around 5 to 6%. It's because Nikki Haley would not do as well with the blue-collar voters than Donald Trump did, and Maine at large because of Maine's 2nd District, which would go to Nikki Haley by a lesser margin than it did for Donald Trump. And now we head into some of the closer states. So starting off with Nikki Haley's lean states, I believe that Maine's 2nd District will be lean, maybe around 4 to 5%. Ohio would be lean, and Texas would be lean along with Florida. This brings Nikki Haley's total to 219 electoral votes, and Joe Biden is just barely ahead of her with 221, as we now enter Joe Biden's lean states. So New Hampshire would be lean, Michigan would be lean, Pennsylvania would be lean, Nevada would be lean, and Nebraska's 2nd would be lean. This all brings Joe Biden to 266 electoral votes, a mere 4 away from the magic number of 270. To go over some of these calls, I believe that Joe Biden would improve with many of the blue-collar voters in Pennsylvania and Michigan, and do well as he did in 2020 with voters in New Hampshire and Nevada. And then we go into some of the tilt states. So I believe that Joe Biden will be the next president in this scenario because he will win Georgia. It'll be very close since Nikki Haley would do better in the Atlanta suburbs, but she would not do well enough with the blue-collar voters and with the urban voters to win the state as a whole. And that actually might be one of the few tilt states. Actually, Wisconsin would be tilt for Biden. It'd go to him by a larger margin than in 2020, since the suburbs would shift a little bit more to Nikki Haley, but the western regions would actually shift more to Joe Biden. And that will be it for Joe Biden's tilt states. And North Carolina and Arizona will be tilt for Nikki Haley for the following reasons. North Carolina, while the blue-collar voters that voted for Donald Trump and Roy Cooper, for example, in 2020, would abandon Nikki Haley, the suburbs that are actually still pretty Republican in North Carolina, those would shift even more to Nikki Haley. So she'd still win the state. And since Joe Biden just doesn't do very well there in general, and I think he would actually improve there, but it would not be enough to win the state. Arizona, because Nikki Haley is more establishmentarian, and while she'd lose many of the rural voters that supported Donald Trump, she would still not win the state overall. So there we have it. Joe Biden wins with 292 electoral votes to Nikki Haley's 246, and Nikki Haley would actually flip Arizona, but she would lose ground in states like Ohio, Iowa, Missouri, and Maine's 2nd District. Joe Biden would actually lose votes, but don't be fooled, he would still gain in areas like Maine's 2nd District, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and probably Florida and North Carolina. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more content and the notification bell so you're notified when other videos come out. Sorry if there's any background noise since some people enter my room. And don't worry, I'm not being robbed or anything like that. Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below telling me what your prediction for this scenario would be. All feedback is welcomed, and any video suggestions for the future are always appreciated. And that'll be all. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.